Okay, so we're talking Gun, we're talking Suicide Squad, we're talking kind of what I was getting to a little earlier, and so let's kind of dive into that a little bit because oh, you got people who look at this James Gunn situation, and listen, I'm not here to defend his old jokes, to stand by his old tweets. I'm not a fan of his. I know I just kind of spoke up, his previous work, but it was mainly to paint a picture for you of the fact that he's not going to make some cuddly little PG Suicide Squad movie. He's going to definitely push it because that seems to be what he does. But in general, I'm not like this big James Gunn guy. I mainly only know the Guardians movies, and neither one of those did a hell of a lot for me. But when I look at the way he's been treated by some, when I look at the amount of punishment that people want for what is essentially a bunch of old inappropriate jokes, I just kind of have to take a step back and be like, are we really at this place in our society where, oh, I don't get your jokes. I don't think you're funny. I don't think you should be using these words with your face. So I'm going to ruin your career and I'm going to hope you never work in this town again. Like, is that really how we want to live? Like, do all the people who want to throw James Gunn in the trash heap, do they all have zero red on their ledger? Do they have nothing in their past that they regret? Is there no part of them that they're glad that they grew beyond? Have they never had to look in the eye of someone they love dearly and make the decision to forgive them for some atrocity that they've committed because you know deep down they are wonderful people and we're all frail and incomplete and just trying to do our best, but oftentimes we suck by accident on our way to becoming who we want to be? Like, do we want to look in the eyes of those people and go, no, no, no forgiveness for you. No, I want nothing to do with you. Like, anyway, the people who seem the most outraged about James Gunn and who feel like he should never be touched upon again because he made some inappropriate remarks on a social media platform that have never been proven or claimed to be anything other than just words on a screen that are not attached to actions. Anyone who's that bent out of shape, I just want to ask you so many questions. I really do. But I get the sense that maybe you haven't lived much. Or maybe you have lived much, but you've never thought about how much you've changed, how much you've grown, how the person you were 10 years ago probably does not resemble very much the person you are today. Maybe you've never had a thing in your life that you regretted, or a period in your life where you acted in ways that you're ashamed of. But you know what? I feel most of us have. Most of us who've been out there in the world, living and breathing and interacting and being the unbearable but sometimes beautiful messes that we all are. If you've lived a life like that, you know better than to pass judgment on someone else. Unless there's a crime involved, unless they hurt someone, unless we have proof that that they committed some sort of atrocity, if all they did was act like an a-hole, then we got to cut them some slack, because even a-holes have to pay the rent. And you know what? If you look around, if you look into anyone's history, anyone can be made to look like a villain. Anyone can be pulled apart and go, oh, why did you act this way when you were 20? Oh, why did you tell this ex-girlfriend of yours this when you were 30? Oh, why were you so mean to your parents at 40? Like, at any given time, you can take out and pull apart isolated moments in a person's life that showed that they were a lost, heaping mess of humanity at some point before they figured out who they were and what they wanted to be. Because you know what? Life is it's a bunch of trial and error. All throughout life, we're all trying on different identities. We're all trying to figure out, who do I want to be Maybe this is who I am. Maybe this is my identity. Maybe this is what I find funny. Maybe this is what I do to get attention. Maybe this is going to be how I finally get the love that I've always wanted, that I've always been yearning for. If I act this way, or if I hang with these people, or if I wear this hat, or whatever silly thing that you get yourself into, we're all trying on different hats, metaphorically speaking, all throughout our lives. And we have to cut slack to those who along the way maybe did some things that are stupid. Because we've all done things that are stupid. And if you really think you haven't, then you need to get out and live more. And this isn't even necessarily about Gunn. Because it's like, I don't, what he said a bunch of stupid. And listen, I read the tweets. I'm not just talking about this as someone who's uninformed. And it just said, oh, they're jokes. Like, I looked through most of them. And honestly, I can decode. And by the way, misinformation. There's only about 20 of them. People think that just because he deleted hundreds, if not thousands of tweets, that they were all these kinds of things. But no. People found them. They isolated them. There's articles about them. There were only about 20. The rest was just deleted as part of just a mass, like, you know what? I don't want anyone else to misunderstand me anymore. I don't want weird things I said years ago coming back to haunt me. Which, by the way, Elon Musk. No, not Elon Musk. The other entrepreneur, another famous one. What's his name? The guy who owns that basketball team. Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban was ahead of the curve on this stuff. He's been saying for years that everyone needs to have an expiration date on their online activity. Because if not, people are going to start digging into your online activity from years ago and using it to ruin your present. So listen, there's a lot of celebrities now who are now wise to this. There are a lot of people now who are like, you know what? In this climate, with the way the lynch mobs so easily form, with the way people misinterpret words, and you have foreigners who maybe don't understand the nuances of the wording I was using, so they'll just take it literally or they'll take it the wrong way, and then they'll write an article about it, and that article will go viral, and now you have a bunch of people getting all freaked out and grabbing their pitchforks because of a joke someone misunderstood. You have a lot of people now deleting a bunch of tweets because they're like, whoa, in this current place that we're living in right now, it's not a good time to have something that could be vaguely misinterpreted. But back to Gunn, he had 20 offensive tweets. I read them all. In nearly all of them, I was able to go, oh, okay, so that's just a joke about poor water pressure. Oh, that's just a joke about how over-testosteronized the Expendables movies are and how it makes you want to act out against wimpy boys in the movie theater. He was making a silly joke about that. If you go through it, the target of the joke is rarely what you think it is. Like I said, the target in the Expendables one was machismo itself. He was going after machismo. But because of the way he phrased it and the way he put it there, the scenario that he painted, it looks like he's talking about something else. But that's the thing. You can't be so literal-minded. And you know what? Even if you are, it shouldn't matter if you appreciate the joke. It shouldn't matter if you get the joke. Because at the end of the day, it's just a joke. But now you got people going, oh, they're trying to equate him to an actual abuser. You have people trying to equate him to an actual pedophile or a sexual harasser. And to those people, I want to ask, listen, if he was any of those things, in this climate where people come out all the time against all kinds of celebrities, don't you think something would have come out in the last 2 months? If these were anything other than just baseless, crappy jokes, don't you think someone would have come forward and said, yes, well, James Gunn did these things to me. These are not just jokes. These are indications of who he is as a person. That stuff would have come out by now. And maybe that's an assumption on my part. I know there's also this feeling that victims are not heard nowadays, that they come out and they get silenced and they get shamed. But in this particular case, no one would shame them. James Gunn would just go down in flames as another Hollywood pervert. Right now, there would be no backlash against someone who came out and said James Gunn was a bad guy. But no one has. So that goes to show you this was not part of his character. This is not who he is. It's a way that he acted a long time ago, and now we need to move on. And you know what? It's funny because I'm not defending him. And on some levels, I know that there's more to this because he also made that he likes to be very critical and judgmental of others. And so in a way, he almost begged this. He almost begged for this by constantly going after certain people. He did that thing where he dropped a weird hint about Jared Leto liking underage girls. He's been flying off at the mouth in an activist capacity for the last couple of years. And unfortunately, if you're gonna go into that territory, you're gonna create enemies, and you're gonna get people who are gonna hold you to the same standard you're holding others to. So that's why I laughed before a few seconds ago, because it's like, maybe some of this he does have coming. I don't think he deserves to be called an abuser and equated with the kind of people who actually do the things that he was just joking about. But I also think maybe he's kind of responsible. You know what I mean? You can't spend all your time pointing fingers at others and then freak out when people point their fingers at you. And to his credit, he hasn't really freaked out. When all this happened, he apologized. He once again explained himself. But then he just kind of went into reclusion. He didn't freak out. He didn't release any statements going, "This is so unfair. I'm so mad at Disney. How dare you people do this to me?" He kind of took this on the chin. He seems like someone who's fairly enlightened these days and who maybe on some level kind of had an awakening. I was like, you know what? I guess I have to pay. I had to pay the piper at some point. The way I used to act was not great, and I guess it was bound to harm me at some point. Hopefully I land on my feet, and it looks like that's exactly what's happened. Warner Brothers saw who he was, what he's capable of. They could see that just, treating a guy as a pariah in the industry just because he made some jokes a bunch of years back is just foolishness. So they're giving him a chance. And a part of me is just like, yes, people deserve second chances. Some people deserve third chances. And if you've ever had to forgive someone in the past, I hope you remember what that felt like. If you've ever had to be forgiven, I hope you remember what that felt like. Because I don't know about you, but, I don't want to live in a society where we're not allowed to make mistakes. I don't want to live in a society where, like, if someone decides they're offended by some way that I acted, some way that I was at some point, that they can come and destroy my life now. And do you really want to be living with that, looking over your shoulder for that kind of thing too? It's not fair. It's not how life should work. And don't even get me started on this whole stuff about like the court of public opinion and people just, going based off the accusation itself. I don't even want to go into a tangent on that stuff. But right now we can't lose our sense for, we are the rule of law, the rule of being innocent until proven guilty, and being judged by a jury of your peers based on evidence and testimony and all kinds of things. Nowadays, all you hear is one negative headline or one person accusing someone of something else, and we know nothing really about any of the parties involved, but it just feels good to get angry about it. So you get these lynch mobs and people freaking out, and we don't even know all the facts, but people just like to freak out and tear down others because that's how they make themselves feel good. If I'm stepping on someone else's neck and shoving them down, in some way that raises me up, and that's some of the saddest stuff I've ever seen, and it makes me so worried about where we're heading as a society. But something else I kind of want to just put into the ether of your mind while we're in this space is that artists are weird. Artists are weird people. I say that as a reformed artist. No, I'm still an artist. Like I said last week, I'm a has-been that never was. But I still identify myself as a creative type, as an artist. And you know what? Artists are strange. You know, we're very passionate. We're very insecure. We have huge egos. We're incredibly ambitious and incredibly impulsive. When things are beautiful, everything is a song. When things are sad, everything is an opera and a tragedy. We feel things, we look at the world differently than most normal people do. It's how we're able to write the great songs you hear and write and act and direct and star in the movies that you love so much and the TV shows that you love so much. It's because of our sort of outsized view of the world and how we kind of believe in a form of magic. You know, artists, our brains are wired strange. Even just deciding to be an artist as a career is an insane decision. You know, if you think about it, with everyone around you going to school and getting degrees and figuring out their 9 to 5 jobs and what their career is going to be, and your friend's going to be a doctor, and your other friend wants to be a lawyer, and this one wants to start their own this and blah 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 blah. You know, to make the decision to be an artist and follow your heart and your dreams and your passions in and of itself is a form of insanity, but we do it. And those of us who are way more successful than I am, as in successful at all, you know, the ones who do that, it's because they're able to tap into a part, you know, of a fearlessness and almost a recklessness of spirit. And guess what? The same things that make artists great are the very same things that also lead to them acting in ways that are horrendous. So when it comes to Hollywood, when it comes to witch hunts, when it comes to looking for which actor or director or producer or writer did questionable things in their past, guess what? Probably all of them did. All of them have done things, have at times treated others like crap, have been utterly toxic, have acted out in ways that are immature and outlandish and ridiculous cries for attention. Because you know what? It's all part of the crazy, messed up psyche of what it is to be an artist. It's how we view the world. We're all over the place. We're all over the map. And we've all done things that we're not proud of, and we pay for them every day in our own private way. And sometimes we channel it into our work and we write that great script about the flawed anti-hero that you love so much. But little do you know, I came up with that anti-hero because of some horrible thing I did that I'm running away from. I'm speaking in hypotheticals, by the way. I haven't written anything. I wish I did. But, you know, when it comes to art and artists, you're dealing with messy people. And if we're just going to start going into Hollywood and picking apart every single actor, director, writer, producer, anyone who's ever just tweeted out an inappropriate joke, guess what? We're not going to be left with anyone anymore. If we expect everyone in Hollywood, just like in any other industry, if we expect everyone everywhere to be the most sane, ethical, conscientious, mature, diplomatic, grown-up individual who's well-adjusted and has never made a mistake and didn't go through a dark phase in their life where they did questionable things that they're not proud of, if that's what we're expecting, guess what? We're in for a lifetime of heartache, my friends. So at some point after this initial, you know, outcry of what's going on now where we're tearing down people. And listen, some people deserve it. I'm not saying that like everyone's off the hook. Absolutely not. There are actual monsters out there. You have your Harvey Weinsteins. You have some of the stuff that I've heard about, you know, Kevin Spacey, where he's actually grabbing underage boys and doing all this ugly stuff. You know, you have people out there who are actual abusers and predators, and like, let's go after them. Let's burn them. Let's throw them into a pit by all means. But if we're going to start expanding the scope of the Me Too movement to anyone who's ever just been a prick, then I think maybe we've gone too far. Because even pricks got to earn a paycheck. And sometimes pricks create amazing, life-altering works that make thousands of people see it and view life differently and try to be better people because they want to try to one day achieve that level of art and zen that they just experienced through the work of someone who may have been a giant jackass. It's okay to be a jackass and a prick is what I'm trying to say. Not really. But you know what I mean? It's just we've got to watch out who we're throwing into the fire here and whether or not the punishment, quote unquote, fits the crime. Because I spoke about this the other day about, on Twitter about James Gunn. Like, it's very easy for those of us on the outside to go, oh, well, he hasn't paid enough. He hasn't suffered enough. Like, are you kidding me? I've already established he fired off like 20 inappropriate tweets. Okay, that should not end a career. But let's look at what he's lost. Okay? The Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 now has been ripped away from him. A universe that he helped to build with characters that he's written that exemplify parts of his history and his personality and things he's been working out and themes of, family and togetherness and toxic masculinity and bad fathers. And like, this is a world that clearly has meant a lot to him. And he was getting ready to film this film. They were going to enter principal photography in a couple of months in January. And he just got canned from that. Imagine how much that must hurt, just as an artist, to have this whole thing ripped away from you because of some inappropriate jokes made years ago. All because of some right-wing nut who's trying to end your career because you badmouthed the president he happens to like. Like, that has to be hard stuff to deal with if you're James Gunn. Then think about the rumors that he was going to be the creative architect for the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Phase 4. So he had basically gotten a promotion. He had gone from being the writer-director on Guardians to being the guy who Kevin Feige relied upon to carry the MCU into the cosmos. And he lost that gig too. And you know what? Neither one of those two bits of punishment are half as bad, or even a quarter as bad, I'm sure, as the public shaming he's had to endure. Turning on the TV and seeing news pundits analyzing his tweets and using his, a picture of his face with headlines about pedophile this, pedophile that, oh, jokes against children, and like, can you imagine living like that? Knowing that members of the media, knowing that thousands, if not millions of people on Twitter are mad at you and freaking out, and you have to explain to your friends and your loved ones, no, I didn't do those things. They were old jokes, and like, it's incredibly embarrassing. Incredibly painful, embarrassing stuff to lose these jobs and to be publicly humiliated and to have people questioning whether or not you are some sort of deviant. Those are a lot of major punishments for anyone to have to endure. I don't know how much more you guys expected. Should he do prison time for his crappy jokes? Is that what you wanted? Should he be blacklisted from Hollywood because he made some references you don't understand? Is that really kind of, is that where we're drawing the line? Is that what we want? When is enough enough? It's ridiculous. And you know what? Those of you who enjoy this show, who write me the beautiful reviews, those of you who send me the wonderful emails and private messages you send me letting me know the impact I'm having on you and how much you're loving this community we're growing and Revenge of the Fans and the Revengers and the whole thing. Half of you wouldn't have liked me at all a few years ago. A few years back, I used to act in ways that were abhorrent. I was self-righteous, self-serving. I was immature. I was entitled. Since I had a crappy childhood and the first half of my life sucked, I used to walk around with a chip on my shoulder like the world owed me something. And the only reason that I'm here today, able to do the things that I'm doing now and trying to build the things that I'm attempting to build and able to look at the world in a way that I do nowadays that so many of you are gravitating towards, is by hitting bottom and finding forgiveness. First, the forgiveness of my wife, who saw what I was becoming and who saw how this whole sort of thing had come off the rails. And instead of turning her back on me, and instead of going, no, you are beyond saving, you are not, I'm going to lock, I'm throwing you away because I can't I can't give I can't give you the benefit of the doubt anymore that you're going to become a better person. Instead of doing that, she gave me a chance to remake myself, to rebuild myself stronger, smarter, and better than ever. And I don't know that I am better than ever. I know I'm just a work in progress, but I'm trying. And I could have never done that if I hadn't been forgiven and if I hadn't been given a chance. Because maybe the world would be a better place if when people stumbled, we offered them a hand instead of pointing and laughing at them. Or when they made a mistake, we put a hand on their shoulder instead of balling it up into a fist to attack them for their mistake. But all right, on that note, I think it's time to leave you with my usual farewell, which seems a little extra relevant this week than it typically does. So until next week, life is chaos. Be kind. Adios.